Okay, good evening, everyone, and welcome to tonight's workshop. My name is Brian Cofrancesco. I'm the District Leadership Development Coordinator and a proud member of the Kiwanis Club of Meriden, Connecticut. I'm really excited to welcome you all to tonight's workshop. We have such a good turnout, and it's nice to see both returning Kiwanians, but some new faces tonight too. So welcome to everybody. We are pleased that you're able to join us for this session titled Creative Fundraisers During the COVID-19 Pandemic, a topic that is relevant to all of our Kiwanis clubs right now. This is the 10th session in our virtual workshop series of weekly learning opportunities, and we're glad that you've chosen to take advantage of these free sessions every Wednesday evening at 7, and we hope you'll encourage others in your club to do the same. If you aren't receiving messages from us, emails about these workshops, please drop us an email at education@newenglandkiwanis.org, and we will take a look to make sure you are subscribed to our email list. For those of you who may be joining us for the first time, we are happy to share that these workshops do count towards interclub credit for your club. All you need to do is ensure that you have the minimum number of members from your club in attendance based on your club's size. So if you're new to interclubs, to get together with another club and count it for interclub credit, your club of 20 or few members needs to have 2 people in attendance. A club of 21 to 30 members needs to have 3 members in attendance. And if your club has 31 or more members, you need to have 4 members in attendance. And if you achieve that, your secretary can count it as an interclub on their monthly report. So we do ask everyone at this time, if you're willing, to help everyone determine the number of interclubs they can report by introducing yourself in the chat. So put your name and your club so that those who are tracking interclub attendance can make a list of those who are here tonight. Secretaries or those who are tracking, you can either write down the clubs, or if you click the little ... next to the chat, you can click Save the Chat so you can review the information later. Before we get started, some housekeeping. Please remember to mute yourself and keep yourself muted to ensure an uninterrupted presentation. If you are new to Zoom, the mute is in the bottom left-hand corner of your screen. You are welcome and invited to keep your camera on. It's always nice to see everyone's faces, but you can also keep it off if you're more comfortable. Again, please introduce yourself in the chat, and you can also use the chat to send questions for our presenters, either to the entire group or to me directly. If you're watching us on Facebook tonight, please leave a comment on the live stream with your questions, and we will do our best to ask them all at the end. Tonight's workshop will be about 1 hour. We are live streaming to Facebook, where you will be able to find a recording as well as a recording on our district YouTube channel later on this week. So with that, we're ready to get started. Tonight's session features clubs from all across our district, New England and Bermuda, who are going to tell you about their successful fundraisers held during the pandemic. You will hear from past Governor Bart Stevens from the Kiwanis Club of Greater Waterville in Maine, Christopher Holden and Kathleen McPherson from the Kiwanis Club of Middletown, Connecticut, Joe Carreiro from the Kiwanis Club of Chelsea, Massachusetts, Scott Beck from the Kiwanis Club of St. Johnsbury, Vermont, and past Governor Elyse Denorfia from the Kiwanis Club, who will also moderate our discussion. And we really hope these stories of successful fundraisers will inspire your own club to plan a creative and unique fundraiser while staying safe during the pandemic. So with that, I hope you will all join me in welcoming our moderator for tonight, Elyse Denorfia, who will get things started.
Hello, everyone. I hope that everyone is doing well this evening. And I am going to get things started by speaking about 2 fundraisers that the Kiwanis Club has participated in over the pandemic. So we have the unique challenge of not living in one community, right? So we cover 6 states, all of the New England states, and the country of Bermuda, although we don't have any members right now who currently live in Bermuda. So we try to think of fundraisers that we could do online, and that's the way our club has always functioned. So transitioning to an online forum was not necessarily different for us. The only thing that was really impacted was our service opportunities, I think, more than anything. But 2 fundraisers that we have done that were successful for our club, and we were able to do them in an electronic capacity, were first a cash calendar. So I'm just going to share a picture right now of a cash calendar that we did for the month of October. So if you read the rules, we had the cost set as $10 donation. We used an online service called Ticket Leap, LEAP.com, which charged $1.50 processing fee. So we as a club did not pay that. The members who purchased the calendars paid that processing fee. We set our rules to be that it would be a maximum of 500 cards that would be sold. And we did our drawing daily using Zoom and a program called Wheel of Names, where you can enter everybody's names, and it's a fun spinning wheel, and it would pull a name every day. And so we shared that on our Facebook page to let everybody know that if they were winners. So this was a easy adaptation of a typical cash calendar that you would see in a club. But we made it a little bit more digital by doing the drawing on Facebook and using Ticket Leap, LEAP.com, and I can share that in the notes that we share after this session. To do the transaction, they paid through that, and Ticket Leap paid us. So really, if you think about it, if you did about $1,000 worth of drawings and sold all 500 tickets, you could earn about $4,000 for your club for a pretty quick selling fundraiser. Another project that we did, and we're joking right now in the Kiwanis Club that we are soon going to be the Flower Fundraiser Kiwanis Club. We might need to change our name because we are starting our second fundraiser in a couple of weeks here. But in the around the holidays, before the holidays, we did a holiday flower fundraiser. And what we did was we worked with a company that's called Flower Power Fundraising. And what they do is they just give you 50% of the proceeds that that you sell during that time. I'm getting some questions in the chat. So what I will do when I'm done speaking and when I pass it along, I will put the names of all of these programs that I used in the chat for you guys to share. And I'll also make sure that I upload it to our Google document that we're sharing with everybody as well. But through the Flower Power fundraising, it's as many flowers as you could sell. What it was, and actually I should have asked Sharon to describe what they are, seeing that she's here, and I know nothing about flowers, but it was little pots and bulbs of different types of Christmas flowers that were really pretty. They do one actually every season. So this company does a holiday, a spring, I want to say they do a fall as well. So our club is actually in a couple of weeks going to be doing a spring fundraiser. And during that fundraiser, it's just, they assign you a website that you share. So you are doing all of the marketing. But for the spring fundraiser, you sell flower bulbs, flower seeds, fruit and vegetable seeds, and then they have other little goodies, little supplies. And the good thing about that is it's just as much marketing as you get out there. You get 50% of the proceeds. They directly send that to you. A very quick and easy transaction. So those are two fundraisers that we did, and one that's coming up in a couple of weeks. So make sure to buy flowers from the Kiwanis Club. I'll give you guys a little sneak preview of what that will look like. It's going to come live on Facebook in probably about 2 weeks here. Here we go. Look at how pretty that little advertising is. So it just lists the items that we will be selling in about 2 weeks. But what they do is Flower Power Fundraising gives you a unique web address. So ours is ekiwanis.fp, flowerpowerfundraising.com. And you sell as much as you can and you get 50% of the proceeds. So those are two things that we have done. I will pass along to Bart Stevens.
Hey, good evening, everybody. Hope you're all staying nice and warm. It's a bit chilly up here in Maine. Ours was our fundraising project was probably something many of you have done, but it's not something we've ever tackled before. My club will be 98 years old this summer. So we've gone through a lot of fundraisers, successful and non-successful, but we are a service-oriented club, really. So we do one big fundraiser a year, and that's actually a live auction. We do a live outdoor auction on the first weekend of August of every year. And in 2020, that would have been our 45th annual live auction, and it wasn't able to take place at that. So we had to come up with a creative idea as to how we could possibly salvage a little bit of fundraising from that. That would bring us in, upwards of $10,000 a year. And being our only major fundraiser of the year, that was pretty substantial for us. So we put our heads together and came up with the idea of a yard sale. Nothing new about that, but I'll tell a little bit more about it. It seems that with all the free time everybody had for 5 or 6 months, there was a lot of cleaning out of houses going on, a lot of attics being cleaned out, a lot of basements being cleaned out. So we came up with a tremendous amount of items for this yard sale. I own a real estate company, so we have a large parking lot. So this was held outside so we could remain socially distanced, spread everything out. The hardest part was trying to get everything set up on time. I'm sure many of you have had the experience of doing yard sales. You say it's going to begin at 9 and they start circling your house at about 5 a.m. So that's what was happening at the business. They started circling between 5 and 6. So it was interesting to watch it. We actually provided face masks if anybody wanted one and they didn't happen to have one. But by the end of August, it was pretty, at least here in central Maine, it was pretty well established that everybody was wearing masks and we didn't have any problems with that whatsoever. So we ran this for just 4 hours. That was our goal, was to get in and get out quickly. We had a lot of stuff. We had absolutely no idea what type of money we were going to raise, but we wanted to make sure that we left with nothing. That was the underlying goal, was to have it go away. But much to our surprise, it raised several $1,000s in that 4-hour period. And the fun piece of this actually was that so many of our past supporters who come to our auction year after year, they actually look forward to coming to the auction. The benefit of, some continuity going on and creating some good feelings in the community. We raised over $1,000 from donations of people that weren't able to attend, but have always supported the auction and actually missed it. So it really opened our eyes to to paying attention to how well we treat the community members around us. We think we treat them very well and we get really good support, but it was really humbling to see over $1,000 come in with people not even attending the event, but following up with checks and dropping checks off for the event because they know what we do for projects, service projects within the community. So that was sort of our hastily put together, socially distanced take on an auction. The last piece I'll share is that the community that my wife Pat and I live in, Oakland, has a very active Lions Club that does a lot of children's charities as well. And they hold 2 huge yard sales every year. So everything that was left over, they graciously took. So there was no cleanup for us or anything. They came and picked it all up. And off we went with, $4,000 or $5,000 that we thought might be $500 or $600. So sometimes these hastily put together, have to put a lot of thought into them, really do work out. So there's my story. I'm sticking to it.
That's great. Thank you so much, Bart. Next, we will hear from Chris Holden and Kathy McPherson from the Kiwanis Club of Middletown.
Thank you. We're going to share some of the pictures from our event. We had, apparently everybody was drinking and saving up their bottles and cans. So we did a bottle and can drive. Kathy, if you want to take over, I'll share my screen to provide some of the photos.
Okay. Well, basically, as Chris said, we seized the opportunity of all the heavy drinkers in the Middletown area who came together and dropped off their cans, but the volume far exceeded anything that we could have imagined. We borrowed a truck from the Department of Emergency Medicine here in Middletown. It was one of those very huge trucks that are pulled along by pickup truck, excuse me. So what we did is initially we filled that truck, we filled the pickup truck, we filled a 10-axle dump truck, and then we had to fill other trucks. And then we filled every volunteer's trunk to the maximum. And in total, we collected 70,300 cans and bottles. It was 193 volunteer hours were spent on this project, and we made $3,515. We worked with a gentleman from Middletown who runs an organization called Cans for a Cause, and it was his guidance that helped us because it's not just simply collecting and going to a Stop and Shop and turning in your cans and bottles. What it is you have to collect, you have to sort, you have to count out, and then he would take the bags up to the redemption center for us, and they go by the count in the bag. So each bag that he would present to them would say hold 100, and we had to separate, so it would be 100 Coke bottles. So the 100 Coke bottles get counted as one. The next bag would hold 100 Bud Lights. The next bag would hold 100 Pepsi. So, and 100 water bottles. So everything had to be culled down in order to get it to the redemption center. Chris, we have the pictures?
I thought I was sharing it, but apparently not.
Well, I didn't see anything. Did anyone else?
No. Chris,
No.
you did a really nice job of sharing it with yourself. Here we go.
Oh, yes.
All right, let's start. I'll scroll through them again. Sorry
This is
about
the
that.
backyard. This is the truck, the OEM truck, the Department of Emergency Management truck that we initially thought we would fill, and then that would be the end. That would take care of it all. Well, here comes the big dump truck because we also needed that. This is dumping at Cans for a Cause at his home, because we did everything in his backyard. We did all the sorting in his backyard. You can see we had it all set up so we could go to each of the individual boxes, because each box represents what type of can that you would do it. So it was very interesting. And here's some of the cans. And this is only a few of them. You would not believe what 70,300 cans looks like in one area. Thank you, Chris. Some of my favorite pictures.
If anybody noticed, Chris's daughter was up in the truck, helping to do some sorting.
Let me tell you, Lindsay has skill.
Yeah.
She has a lot of skill.
Great. Thank you so much, Kathy. Oh, Chris.
I was gonna say, just wrap it up. So just, it was great, the first day collecting all the cans, and then the work really began, as Kathy was saying, to sort them into all the different sizes, 2 liter, 1 liter, plastic, glass, and, get our Kiwanis Club together and able to, get some together time while we were careful. And the other thing was, so we did drive-through drop-off, so people could just pull up in their cars, and then we just took them out of the trunk, took them to the side there. Really exceeded our expectations.
Great, nice job. Thank you guys so much. Next, we will hear from Joe Carreiro from the Chelsea Kiwanis Club.
Hi, everybody. In the interest of being honest, our idea came from a lunch and learn that I attended for the Kiwanis International. And what we did was a wine tasting. And I kind of adapted what these folks from the California Kiwanis Club that presented had done. And so basically what we did was an event that was really supposed to be geared around bringing in new members, but then it turned into a fundraiser because we had an overwhelming response to it. So we found a local wine store, and we went to them and we packaged up 2 or 3, in this case, sample wines. And what we did is we advertised to folks that we could sell them a ticket, which would get them not only the 3 sample wines, but also an invitation to a wine tasting virtually, where everybody logged onto a Zoom, and the expert from the wine store was able to kind of walk us through a wine tasting all at the same time. We even had a non-alcoholic wine option for folks like myself who are not alcohol drinkers. And what we did is we based our price solely around the initial idea that we were just trying to encourage folks to come in as a membership drive. But the way that the California Club did it was their ticket price was a little higher. The wines actually cost them, probably like $18 or $19, and they were charging $30 a person for a set of wines. And they were able to raise funds in that way. And for us, we ended up offering a discount to folks who were not associated with Kiwanis as an initiative to try to come in and see how fun we are. But for current Kiwanis members, we priced it only a few dollars higher than what it cost us for the wines. And we were very lucky in that the wine store that we worked with actually did delivery to a geographic area within our club. So I would say 80% of the wine was delivered via them. And through social media postings, I was actually fortunate enough to actually have folks from well outside of our region interested in attending. So with the help of FedEx, I delivered the wine to them in Florida, in Kansas, in Maine, as well as Western Massachusetts. And we, had them be able to attend. Even last minute, we were able to get folks who wanted to buy in. The wine shop was excellent in providing us wines up until the day of the event and deliver them in many instances. And it was a really successful event that we partnered up with a local gentleman who does trivia. So we had the wine tasting, and then after the wine tasting was done, we held trivia, and it was a big hit. And we ended up making a small profit from it, maybe somewhere in the market of around $300. But again, it wasn't intended to be a fundraiser. It turned into a fundraiser just because of the overwhelming response to it. So it's a pretty neat event. We actually had a lot of gentlemen on who wanted to turn it into a whiskey and what was the other, bourbon, whiskey and bourbon tasting next time. And we actually have it lined up. We just didn't want to do it because we didn't want to be known as the club that favors alcoholism. So we haven't done that event just yet. I see my president Sylvia is scratching her head. She's probably embarrassed that I'm saying this right now, but you can, in all seriousness, kind of dovetail this to wine, to other kind of spirits, even a beer tasting. We did not have a brewery local to us, but the folks in California said that they actually had another club in Wisconsin partner up with a brewery to kind of do a micro beer testing. and that was very, very successful there too. So there's all sorts of different things that you could do, but it was just a really nice kind of social event that allowed us to you know, come together in an informal way, but also raise some funds as well.
That's great. Thank you so much, Joe. Next, we will hear from Scott Beck from the St. Johnsbury, Vermont Kiwanis Club.
Okay, thank you, Elyse. So like most of the clubs that have already spoken, we've lost fundraisers because of COVID. We lost our auction. And we were the group that did the concessions at the home high school football game. So we're trying to think of some ways to recoup that money. Our only mission as a club, our priority mission as a club, is we operate, maintain, and provide free, operate the local swimming pool and offer free lessons, swim lessons to everybody. So we kind of have to make money so we can run that thing. So basically what we did was, you know, it snows up here a lot, and we have the Fairbanks Museum is here in St. Johnsbury, and Eye on the Sky is the weather center there, and they're known throughout Vermont, New Hampshire, northern New England. They're the weather center. And so what we did was we created, we didn't create, but we were able to secure a COVID grant in October, November, for the purpose of building a website and run a contest there. And the contest is, the website is the VermontSnowRaffle.com. And basically at that site, people guess how much snowfall St. Johnsbury will receive this year. It's $5 a guess. And then the winner, it's a 50-50. I'll go ahead and share the site. It was set up for mobile. Let me see here if I can find it. Yep, there it is right there. Okay, thank you. I hope you can see it. It was all professionally built. It was, you know, a CARES grant, so we were able to go out to a professional website developer. So it all works. It's really, really slick. The deadline is March 2nd. So we are expecting that, you know, when we do know that most people are just going to like wait till the first part of March and put their guess in. But we've seen some pretty interesting trends so far. And there's some interesting economics of doing a 50-50 raffle. One is that of the money that we've received so far, if you'll notice here on the, at the top there, on the right, there are the different guest levels, and then, you know, they put their name and their credit card. But this right here where my cursor is, additional donation amount, like just kind of throw it out there to see if anybody would, you know, donate some additional money. Of the monies that we've received so far, 45% of the money is donated money. So that's just free and clear for the club. It's not part of the 50-50. You know, a lot of people so far paid $25 for 6 guesses, and then they just doubled it and made it 50. The other thing that's really cool about doing a 50-50 raffle like this is that any money that we spend to conduct the raffle, which is, you know, credit card processing fees, and the big one is marketing, Facebook, local paper, whatnot, because that money comes off the top, then effectively that advertising, the club really only pays for half of it. The other half is borne by the winners of the contest, because it's a 50-50. So if you think about the advertising dollars that we're paying for here, we're really only paying 50% of those dollars. So that works out really well. For us, it would really paid so far, you know, knock on wood, but it's really paid huge dividends to have accessed that COVID money and actually have this thing really done by a true web professional. I mean, he does banks, he does Kittery Trading Posts, he does all these big things. So literally for me, it took me probably 20 minutes to get the grant. It took me probably 20 minutes to tell this person what I wanted. And then every 3 or 4 days, I get the total of snow. I put it on the little line here where you can see in the description. I'd say probably our club's probably got 2 hours into this whole thing, and it just runs on autopilot. And it just, when people do it, it sends money to our checking account, and it just goes right there. It's basically on autopilot, and it could take hundreds or thousands of guesses a day, if not more. So it's a pretty kind of a really, from a man hour perspective, it's really, really low man hours, which is nice. So I wouldn't say it's a great project if you want a fundraiser that brings your group together and, you know, you have all this bonding time and stuff. This is not the project, but hopefully with very little effort, this is something that we'll be able to run year after year after year. So
That's great, Scott. I'm really excited to see what
yeah, it looks great on
happens.
it's totally set up. So if you're on a phone or a tablet right now, it's totally geared up for those types of devices. So,
Great. Thank you so much.
you're welcome.
Okay, so we are going to hear from one last presenter. Scott, if you want to stop.
Yeah, I'm trying. There you go. Stop.
Okay. Thank you. And we are going to hear from Michelle Bourdeau and Brian Cofrancesco from the Kiwanis Club of Meriden, who are going to speak about their cow chip raffle.
Great, thank you. Hi, everybody. So yes, our cow chip raffle, or as we call it, our cow plop raffle, if you sort of get the gist of what that means, is sort of an event that's really set up perfect for, you know, the state we're in with COVID. So this year, it's held in the fall. We sell our tickets $10 each. For a maximum amount of tickets sold of 1,500. And basically, we are selling the deeds to individual plots for the recipients who purchased the tickets. And on the day of the event, we have 2 cows that come in, and there's a whole host of rules that we set forth. And as long as one of the cows does a true plop, which, you know, on our ticket is very graphic and very professional, so that they know that, you know, it can't just carry across another line. It has to be a true plop. We do offer a prize that's fairly significant. And we also do have a second place prize as well. And typically we do this fundraiser usually every other year for the club, and we weren't really scheduled to do one this year, but of course we felt, you know, with everything going on, this would be perfect to do because we can do it socially distanced, it's outdoors. And we added a few different platforms to try to boost our sales of tickets. And so we partnered with our local newspaper company that has a ticket platform. So we were able to sell tickets through that platform online, as well as we used PayPal and Venmo. And we saw a significant increase in the amount of tickets that we sold. And so we make, you know, anywhere from, after giving out the prizes, you know, anywhere from $5,000 to $6,000 for the club. So, and from a cost perspective, we really just have to pay to rent the beautiful cows, which is only a couple $100s, print the tickets, and then we partner with our local city, and they actually help survey the land and actually, you know, chalk the areas off, and we fence it. And it's an oddly great event. I really love it. And yeah, Brian, I don't know, do you have anything to add to that?
I think you hit all the big points. I just wanted to echo how we weren't planning to do this fundraiser this year, but it really presented itself as an opportunity to engage people in something that was not only fun, but the price point of $10 per plot isn't, you know, too expensive, and it was something that people could afford. And I was really amazed. My wife and I were handling the PayPal, Cash App, and Venmo payments, so separate from the online through our newspaper. some people were buying 3, 4, 5, 6 plots, and we're just being so generous because some of them have supported us in the past and wanted to still do the same, but others never had. And so it was really nice to see the community come out in such force for, as Michelle said, a very odd type of event, but one that we've come to be known for. People come to expect the large cutouts of cows that we put around the city to promote as Cowpop is coming up. So something that doesn't take a lot of money up front, has a low price point per person, but can really bring in a good amount of money.
Great. Thank you guys so much for sharing about that. I'm disappointed that my plot did not receive a plop, but you know, maybe next year. There have been a couple of these animal poop fundraisers throughout our district, and they always kind of make me chuckle a little bit when I see them. So they are fun for the participants as well. So right now, I think if anybody else had any fundraisers that they wanted to share, we have a couple minutes. I've seen some questions come in the chat, so we can do those as well. It looks like Andrea has a question or a comment or a fundraiser.
Hi, everyone. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Just to let you know, we have done 3 online 50/50 raffles, and we started using Venmo. I pushed our club into that, and it's great because super easy. We just did 50/50 raffles on Facebook. We've raised, 700 on one, 600 on the other, and 675 on the last one. So it was actually pretty, and it's pretty easy to do periodically. It takes almost no work.
Wow, that's great. Andrea, what state are you in? Are there any?
Oh, Massachusetts.
Okay. One of the questions in the, okay, great. One of the questions in the chat was what issue, are there any regulatory issues about holding raffles? And I know it's state dependent. I think Massachusetts does not have any.
Yeah, no, and it's such a small amount. I mean, there are no issues with it, but it's also such a small amount. And we just did it all on Facebook. So it was basically, people liked our Facebook page and passed it on. We had everything from California to Florida to, East Boston giving us money. So it was a super easy one.
Wonderful. Thank you for sharing.
Could I ask a question of Andrea?
Sure.
So we were thinking of doing something along those lines and using Venmo, but we couldn't find a way to do Venmo without using someone's individual name. Were you able to use the club name?
We ended up using our treasurer's name, and the biggest problem we ran into was the phone number. You have to have a phone number associated with the with the Venmo. And she did reluctantly give her phone number, but it hasn't been a problem for her.
Okay, great.
So yeah, it was I had to kind of force our members into using it, but we've also had a couple members that are now paying through Venmo for their dues. And it goes right to our bank. It posts right to our bank account.
Thank you.
Yeah.
If I could just
Does anyone else have a, oh, sorry, go ahead.
I just want to add really quick. We just set up a Venmo account, and I'm not sure how our treasurer did it, but she was able to put the name of our club as the handle. And I think she might have put, because our handle is at, if anyone wants to make a donation, at Kiwanis Club -Meriden. So she might have put Kiwanis Club as the first name and then Meriden as
Let me interrupt. Yes, it does come out like Kiwanis Club of East Boston, but I think you have to have a name and you have to have a physical person's name and a phone number to go with it. Not that anybody sees. It's called Kiwanis Club of East Boston, but there has to be on their end someone's name and number.
And just from a legal perspective, because I looked into that from our perspective for our club, if you make more than $600, Venmo will send you a 1099. So that individual potentially could have a tax liability. So that is something that you need to be concerned with. So.
Thank you, Joe.
Question, if I may.
Sure, Fred.
When you were pushing off the field, it seems to me that there'd be good odds of the poop ending up across the line onto 2 or 4 squares. How do you handle that?
That's a good question. So I don't have the rules in front of me, but it is really laid out that if it at least 50% has to be on the plot, and we get on a measuring tape and we do measure. And if it does carry across and it doesn't constitute a true plot, there it's something like it goes to the north and the south and the east and the west. It's yeah. Brian, I don't know if you can remember any of the specifics, but it is very detailed, and there definitely is a process. And so if we have to go in a different direction because it isn't a true plot, and we find that the plot isn't sold, then there's also then an if and a then for that as well.
Yeah, if anybody is interested in seeing a copy of the rules, I'll drop my email in the chat. Send me an email. We'd be happy to send along what we put together, but it is very laid out in depth about, what happens in every scenario. Oh, Elyse has her deed ready to go. Look at that. So this, as you can see, it measures out the correct width of what counts as a plop, what does not count as a plop, and then it lays out, as Michelle said, even down to if it lands in a spot that is not sold, what direction the judges or the Kiwanis who are managing the field go to determine who has won that spot.
I hope you all ignored that I had 76 tabs open on my computer. That's what it looks like at any given point. That was a great question, Fred. Thank you. Any other questions? And Jim, do you want to speak more about what you just shared in the chat?
Sure, thanks, Elyse. I'd be happy to. Bonfire is a company that basically they do merchandise sales that you can customize, everything from t-shirts to sweatshirts, handbags, etc. But it's all printed based on who orders. So you don't have to do any minimum quantities of ordering anything. My home club in Worthington last year, we did a sale with a logo that I designed that shows off our city name. And we did a merchandise sale where we made about $10 per item that was sold. And all we were responsible for was promoting the sale. And we did that through social media and some email campaigns. And in about, I think it was about 30 days, we raised almost $1,200 in net profits that we gave to our food pantry. We did a apparel for the pantry sale is basically what we called it. But you can customize it to whatever image you want that suits your community. It's a good way to get your club's name and information out there. And the other one that I haven't used, but others locally here in Ohio have used, is Virtual 5K, and they basically help you do a 5K race where people do it virtually on their own time. They have the whole platform to set that up for you as well. So those are just a couple of extra options.
Thank you so much, Jim. And we're very happy to have you here. For those of you who may not know, Jim is actually from the Ohio district. So he is a visitor just bringing ideas to share from outside of our district. So thank you for that input and those ideas. And I know we have a club that will be doing a virtual 5K in a couple months here. So I'm sure that will be very useful for them. Does anybody else have any other fundraiser ideas? Or I think we have a couple questions coming in.
One question that came in through the chat was, and some of you addressed this, but for the speakers who presented their work, their fundraisers, how much upfront money did your club have to invest to make your fundraiser successful?
for Vermont Snow Raffle 0 because we were able to get that COVID grant for that website.
For the Waterville yard sale, it was 0 as well. We promoted it strictly through Facebook and email contacts.
For the wine tasting, obviously, we had to purchase the wine from the vendor, but we had started collecting money ahead of time. So, you know, in theory, we had the money in our account before we actually paid for the final bill. So we did have an upfront cost, but it should have been covered by the ticket sales, you know, when we started.
No upfront cost for our bottle drive. We're lucky to have donations of the truck, so we were all set with that.
Great. And Kiwanis did not have any upfront costs on either our cash calendar or our flower fundraising. The calendar, we did, you know, pay everybody out their winnings, but that happened at the end. We just got something, or a club member from the Kiwanis Club of Westfield, Amanda Brodkin, who is going to speak to us for a couple moments about the transition of their, I don't know, decade-old auction to a virtual platform. Amanda?
Hi, everybody. So our club has been doing our primary fundraiser as a general purpose merchandise auction that originally started about 50 odd years ago as a radio auction. Then we transitioned to television, I think about 25 years ago. And we got our auction in for 2020 about a week before everything shut down. So we got in under the wire for 2020, but this year, like everybody else, it's been tremendously challenging. So at no point did we ever think we weren't going to do an auction, but it became obvious that because our auction is run through the Westfield State University television studios and Westfield State is not in person, that we had to come up with something else. So we've really just completely shifted to an online auction format. We are in the thick of it right now. We are doing our merchandise collections. We are putting together item descriptions, which we always have done for the television auction, but now we're having to enter that data into an auction platform. So what we're going to end up with is what we hope will be a comparable amount of merchandise. I know it's going to be a lot lower this year because we've had a lot of companies say either we can't donate or we're out of business. So we're expecting a lesser profit than in years past, but we're using a platform called Auctria, AUCTRIA.com. And so far it's pretty smooth. It's pretty slick. It's going to look like what you might be used to seeing on eBay or any other auction platform. And we're optimistic that we're going to have a larger reach into kind of our immediate community and then the community's members. And we're doing Facebook and we're doing television, not television, we're doing newspaper advertising. So whereas we've had a very solid course group of bidders, we really hope that we can expand upon that in this new format. So we're really kind of optimistic that this will end up being a really good thing for us. And we'd love to continue doing our TV auction, but we may end up with some sort of a hybrid if this goes well.
Great. And Amanda, how are you picking up the auction items and delivering them to the winners?
So that's always been a challenge because everybody wants to get their stuff as soon as possible. We are going to be mailing, we end up with a lot of gift cards to local restaurants and things of that nature. So as much of that as we can, we will probably end up mailing to reduce the pickup issue. But we have made an agreement with, I make it sound very formal, the Boys and Girls Club of Westfield, which is a group that the Kiwanis Club started and has supported constantly. So the Boys and Girls Club has a circular drive. So what we're going to do is have auction item winners come through, and basically we will walk their merchandise out to them, and just, you know, they'll put their car window down and we'll hand it off to them that way. That's the plan, at least.
Great. Thank you so much.
Sure.
It's always interesting to hear how clubs are adapting, especially, you know, projects that have been happening for decades or at least many years. It's all very different this year. And that sounds like a really cool and creative way, even though I can't work the phone bank, which is my favorite Kiwanis volunteer job this year. And I've done it for probably more than a decade now, decade and a half.
Well, hopefully we'll get you back next year in some format.
I hope so. Yeah. Okay, Brian, are you up?
Yes, we have another question that came in through the chat. To any of those who've spoken tonight who would like to comment, if you do your fundraiser again next year, what will you do differently?
We're going to try to do ours during a cooler time period. It was pretty hot in July and August when we were sorting the bottles. So we're doing a little bit earlier this year, hoping for some cooler weather.
I think if we did ours again, we would either expand on the options, you know, and maybe do something like a beer, or since it was so popular, bourbon and whiskey, do something of that nature to kind of change it up a little bit. But we had a pretty good, you know, general outline blueprint for it, but I think it'll just be, you know, doing something a little different as to what the offerings would be.
Say for snow raffle, ask me on March 3rd.
All right, and one last question. Does your club have other fundraisers planned for this year? And if so, what do you have planned?
Well, I'll start for St. Johnsbury. We just finished a major fundraiser that we've done for years and years and years, and it hasn't changed because of COVID. We do a Super Bowl raffle, two $10,000 10 by 10 grids, which we usually collect. This year we netted $13,000 on that. We're actually thinking about going to a third grid next year.
Sorry about that. Greater Waterville is in the early stages. We're going to do a raffle, ticket sales. We've collected or had donated 10 $25 gift certificates, gift cards to local businesses, and we'll be raffling those off. We're very community minded, and we always support the local businesses, but we're trying to go big with this. So the cards that were donated were larger businesses, the Home Depots, the Lowe's, Applebee's, that sort of thing like that, where we could get all of you involved in it. And the chances of you using one of our local restaurants are pretty slim, but you might be willing to spend $5 on, you know, a raffle ticket with a chance of winning $250 worth of gift cards that are redeemable almost anywhere. And that should kick off within the next month. I think our target is mid-March.
The Westfield Club has a couple of things lined up. We're anticipating that our big auction will not net what it has in years past. So we have two things lined up. We're gonna completely copy what the Chelsea Club did with the wine tasting. Anne, who's on the call with us tonight, participated in that, thought it was a great time, really thinks it's worth investigating. And so we're gonna probably, after the dust settles after our auction, we're gonna look into doing that. And then we're also going to do a pet contest, like the coolest pet of Westfield which will be an online thing as well. There is I can't remember the name of the platform, but there's a website that basically does this, and a lot of Kiwanis clubs, particularly in the Midwest, have done this pet contest. And the concept is very simple in that, you know, people in the community want their friends to vote for their own dog, cat, turtle, chicken, whatever. And so they share their entry, their friends vote for them, but the friends have to pay $1 for each vote. So the pet owner has to pay to register their pet, the friends have to pay to vote. And so the website manages the whole thing, and it looks really slick and fun. So that'll be something we do later in the spring.
We still have one of our major fundraisers is a pasta day that we usually do in April. Last year was no good, and this year we're looking to postpone that till the fall, and hopefully it'll be as successful as in the past. We're also going to do a golf tournament. We've done that for many years. Again, last year we did not do it. The biggest part of that is both the sponsors, like tea sponsors and what have you, and also the raffle. So it's just, it's a really hard time to be asking, businesses that are hurting for donations. So, we'll see how it goes. And, that's one of the main reasons why last year we didn't run our golf tournament, to support our businesses wherever we can.
Well, we've got a lot of different ideas in the works. We haven't finalized any project, but I do know that our one that we're looking to try to put together for March is a bingo night, where we're going to invite all of our clubs from all over the place to come and play bingo with us. We have somebody working on the project right now, a smaller segment of our club. And they've got lots of really great ideas that they've been sharing, and we're hoping to make an announcement on it pretty soon as to when that's going to be and how it's all going to work.
And I'll just add in before we wrap that the Kiwanis Club of Meriden, our creative fundraising committee, has really sprung into action, and we're now planning a virtual paint class. We're planning a can and bottle drive modeled off of our neighbors in Middletown. We're planning a wine tasting. We're planning our strawberry shortcake sale postponed into the fall, and a bunch of other things. So a lot of these ideas have come from other clubs. So thank you all for those of you who provided inspiration. And we'll keep you posted on how it comes and how they turn out on our end. So with that, that's going to bring us to the end of tonight's workshop. I want to thank Elyse and Bart and Chris and Kathy, Joe and Scott, and everyone else who stepped up to share their fundraisers tonight. Such great ideas, and I hope everyone who's here tonight has something that they can bring back to their own club and maybe we'll give a shot at this year. So before we close, a couple announcements. I'm going to ask Elyse to share her screen so we can tell you about our upcoming webinars for the next few weeks, including our final one for February. And then you will all be the very first people to see our schedule for March, which will be released in the next few days. Okay, so February, we have one workshop left, and that's next Wednesday. We have Darcy DeLuca and Mernesa Rivera Bujosa from the Kiwanis Club of Somerville, Massachusetts, and they will be presenting Maintaining Club Momentum and Member Engagement While We're Apart. Another COVID era specific workshop, but also really some great tips that can apply to any time of the year. So that's one you really don't want to miss, next Wednesday at 7. And if you will all humor me with a drum roll in your own homes, we have this upcoming March's schedule, and registration information will be posted in the next few days. On March 3rd, we have past Lieutenant Governors Dan Andrews from Mount Washington Valley, Lilith Bailey from Hamilton, Bermuda, and Dana Bartlett from Colebrook, New Hampshire, who will be talking about the exciting leadership role of Lieutenant Governor and why the district needs your leadership and why you should consider running in your division this spring. March 10th, we have Sylvia Ramirez from Chelsea and Amanda Brodkin, who you met a few minutes ago from Westfield, who will be presenting on using Zoom for club meetings. On March 17th, we're trying something a little different. We have a district-wide interclub, and that is going to be coordinated by Daryl Sylvia, Robert Wiley, and members of the district's membership team. So while our weekly sessions do count as interclubs, this is going to be a session that's built to be like an interclub. And we are going to break everyone into small networking groups and give you a chance to talk with other clubs about different topics. So we will have breakout rooms about club meetings, membership, service, public relations, and interclubs and service leadership programs. So that's an exciting session that you won't want to miss. On March 24th, the topic of planning your club's annual meeting, and that'll be presented by our district parliamentarian, David Weiskell. Dave is the expert on all things parliamentary procedure and bylaws and Robert's rules, and he's going to offer practical suggestions of how to plan and execute your annual meeting. Because all clubs must hold their annual meeting and elections by May 15th. So that will be a good chance to pick up some tips as you prepare for your own club's meeting. And to wrap out March, we have a session on the 31st, getting to know our district governor. So Governor-elect Gayla Bartlett is going to sit down with our Governor Dennis Murphy to talk about his background, his goals for the year, his Kiwanis service, and more. And there will also be a chance for you to ask questions of Dennis, our governor. So this is what we have lined up for March, a lot of exciting sessions. And we hope that when the email goes out and the posts go up on Facebook to register, that you will take advantage of these free sessions every Wednesday at 7 p.m. As we always say, we hope that you will encourage your fellow club members to also sign up for these learning opportunities. There's a lot more information on our district Facebook page and Facebook group. Elyse will drop the link for the February session in the chat if you have not yet signed up for February. And if there are any sessions you want to rewatch or that you aren't able to attend, we have a playlist on our YouTube channel, and we'll drop that link in the chat as well. And we have recordings of most of our sessions posted there to YouTube. And we announced just a couple weeks ago, we now have a Google Drive folder where you can find materials and PowerPoints and presentation resources from all of our workshop series sessions. So if you take a look at the confirmation email you received this morning, if you look at the very end, you will see a link that says virtual workshop materials, and you can go week by week to find resources from each of our sessions. So as we conclude, I would like to thank our District Education Committee members, which include Elyse Denorfia and Judy Barrett, who work behind the scenes to make weekly workshops successful and help coordinate all the logistics. So I hope you all give a big round of applause to Elyse and Judy, who really helped make this possible. I want to thank all of our presenters for joining us tonight and for all of you for attending. In particular, I want to call out, not by name, but that we do have some folks from other districts who joined us tonight. You met Jim a little while ago, and then we also had someone signing up from North Carolina and the Carolinas district. And I believe there were one or two other districts represented tonight. So thank you to all of those who've chosen to spend their evening with New England and Bermuda. And we hope you'll come back and see us again soon. So with that, we will see you all next Wednesday for maintaining club momentum and engagement. I hope you all stay safe and be well. And thank you as always for being a Kiwanis.